We're going to go live. Are we live? Check 1. Check 2. And it looks like we are live.
There's a 27-year-old who works for the DNC who was shot in the back, murdered.
Yes, sir. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the program today.
27-year-old who works for the DNC who was shot in the back, murdered.
What are you suggesting?
What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that our sources take risks.
That's right. You remember? Does anybody remember? Boom, bada boom, bada boom. Julian Assange is free. La 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 la. La 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 la.
My oldest daughter, Camilla, 2 days old, she had to have open heart surgery. All of a sudden, she's on 5 different medications. GoodRx, you can see it.
5 different medications, 5. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the program. Wrong button. Marcus Conte, we're going to try to stop doing that.
It's a murder mystery involving a young Omaha native that has grabbed national attention.
Someone shot and killed 27-year-old Seth Rich last summer as he
remember that? Do you remember the story? How you doing, everybody? Marcus Conte reporting on the great news that Julian Assange, the guy who exposed the terror video, the journalists getting shot in Iraq, and all of the DNC leaks, the great publisher of WikiLeaks, where Trump said, "I love WikiLeaks." Julian Assange is free today. It looks like it's confirmed. It looks like it's not a farce. It's not a maybe. There's only one more thing to finalize, and then Julian Assange is free to go back to Australia, where he feels, I guess, safe. But he's no longer, we're reporting Julian Assange is no longer in Belmarsh prison in England. He's a free man today. He boarded a private jet to an island right off of Guam, an American, U.S. Occupy. We occupy some state off the coast of Guam, and there lies a American federal court, if you can imagine, and that's where Julian Assange is expected tomorrow morning. It's tomorrow night, our time. But in a few hours, Julian Assange is going to accept a guilty plea for violating one count of the Espionage Act. He was tried with 17. So 16 of those got thrown in the garbage because they were garbage. And he'll get time served for the 5 years that he sat in Belmarsh. The 7 years in Ecuador, the Ecuador embassy is off the table. So a total of 12 years later, Julian Assange is a free man, it looks like. He's on a private jet. He flew to Bangkok to get some gas, and then they're on to the island off of Guam. And from there, he's a free man, right? He still has felony convictions and such. I don't think that's going to really matter much. His team already reported that they're going to petition the American presidency for a pardon. He could get that, right? This is political, right? Why him? Why now? Why is it happening now? Of course, this is one of the biggest thorns in the side of the both extreme left and right, right? The left and the right, the extremes are always the same, and both extreme left and extreme right agree that Julian Assange is heroic in the things that he exposed. The DNC leaks, remember? We never solved the murder of Seth Rich, but it does seem that Julian Assange sort of knew. So we'll unpack this, and it's a great day. For some people, it's a travesty of justice. Some people think that Julian Assange is a traitor. Julian Assange endangered our troops by exposing, videos of our troops murdering innocent people. Somehow that's viewed as a violation of our rights of war or something like that. Some bizarre thing like that. But nonetheless, good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Vinny DiMartini in the house. What's up, Vinny? John R. is here. Champs, G.S. Crippler, Fawcett Pay, Fines Headquarters. How are you? Zutsu Cooter, G.S. Crippler. Chris Milk is here. Chris Milk, what's up, Chris? How are you, man? How's everybody doing? Hope everybody is well. So let's do this. My name is Marcus Conte, and this is the Morning Report. And today, what a day! What a day! We're reporting on Julian Assange. The release of the great publisher Julian Assange is a free man today. Every morning, 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, Eastern Standard Time, right here in the great United States of America. The country that caused this whole fucking problem in the first place with Julian Assange. And, where journalism, it seems, has taken a breath forward. The 16 of the 17 alleged crimes that Julian Assange committed were all journalistic practices. Things like working with an informant, working with a source, as it's called. But those are all off the table now. So we're back to business. We're back. Are we back? Are we back? Are we allowed to speak again? Because Julian Assange is free. It definitely, I'll be honest, it definitely raises the question with Julian, what's next? Now, he's going to be shell-shocked for a while. He's just spent 5 years in isolation. And he doesn't know what's going on in the world. He's probably going to find out things for the first time. If he's got his hand on a newspaper, I'm sure he could at least read a newspaper. But he hasn't had that colloquial interaction with people in a long time. So it's going to take him a while. It's going to, he'll hang out with his wife, his kids. He'll go to the beach. And in like a week or two, he'll be back to, wearing his suits and fucking, exposing, right? Which is what he's supposed to do. He'll have a board meeting, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more from Julian coming down the pipe. I would think that he's, going to set up a live stream where we'll hear more about what happened to him inside of that jail. So a lot of very interesting story that if you don't know who Julian Assange is, you will after this is over. So here he is. Julian Assange is free. He's free. There's very, very, very little video coming out right now. This is one of the few videos I found. There he is on a private jet, and you could see that's his attorney, and he's confused. He's just enjoying himself, I guess. He hasn't seen the outdoors in a while. He's in a plane. Here he comes. Starjet. This flight, by the way, it looks fat. This notion that he was malnourished is off the table. Look at Julian Assange packing a gut. Marcus Conte reporting on Julian Assange packing a gut. See, there he is. All right, so we got a video. I don't know who the dude is on the side. I don't know who this is. I don't know who these people are, but that's real. This is happening. It's happening right now. Julian Assange is free. WikiLeaks found that Julian Assange to be freed to be freed. No, he's free after 5 years in UK prison after accepting U.S. plea deal. What's interesting, too, is that there was no announcement that he would be released from Belmarsh and all this would happen. They did it hours earlier. Right? Usually they do it later, but in this case, they did it earlier. Why? To prevent a clusterfuck at the jail and the airport. Right? Everybody clamoring to see Julian. They snuck him out the back door when nobody was looking, and put him on a plane. WikiLeaks found that Julian Assange walked out of a British prison Monday after accepting a plea deal with the U.S. government that will make him a free man and allow him to avoid incarceration in the United States over his leaking of top-secret military information. Julian Assange is expected to plead guilty to violating the Espionage Act and receive credit for time served for the 5 years he spent behind bars in the UK while fighting extradition to the U.S., according to the documents. So he says, I did it. Right? Who cares, right? The people that are incarcerating you and chasing you down are rogue. Right? The United States government, obviously anybody who has seen the attack videos and such and know Julian Assange's work knows that the United States government is rogue in this case. So why should he even care that he's being given a felony? He's got to get around that. Maybe some judge in England can, not England, but in his home country of Australia can flip that verdict, at least while he's in Australia. But I think that's a fair deal, because Julian Assange is faced with, okay, you take our plea or you sit in jail for another 10 fucking years, right? Because that's what will happen, and risk extradition to the United States to feel the full brunt of the kangaroo court here in the United States. So I think Julian Assange makes the right decision. You take the plea and you're free. You're out. You're out of jail. You're out of a maximum security prison, and you're on the beach with your wife in Australia, right? Don't get eaten by a shark, too. So there's Julian Assange, clearly not malnourished, clearly pale as white gets, man, because he hasn't seen the sun. I don't know, but he's looking good. He's got a pair of jeans on. He's got his own clothes. It looks like somebody threw him his own clothes. I hope he's not sick. He doesn't look sick. What's this? There's another video floating around of him. Oh, here. This is the video. So this is a video floating around. We have very, very little footage of Julian. You saw the first one, and now that's when he's walking on the plane, a free man walking on the plane. Yeah, I don't think he wants to go public right now. I think they want to keep his mouth shut until the deal is done. Once you said one wrong thing, man. You said one wrong thing, man. They could start a riot or something, and they'll blame him for it. So what else do we know here? Julian Assange will plead guilty to conspiracy to obtain and disclose national defense information for releasing classified reports of the U.S. wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. No doubt about it. Where's the video? Where's the video? I want to see the video of him. Where's the shoot down video? There's a video of him. Where's the attack video? I don't know where the attack video is. Is the attack video? Well, there's the attack video. I don't want to play it anyway. We'll get in trouble for playing it. But excuse me, just let my brain unfreeze. Julian Assange accepts plea deal. Let's listen to these cats spin it.
Let's get that vision up of Julian Assange. We have not seen him for years. This has just been posted by WikiLeaks, obviously, in a car on his way to Stansted Airport. He's there sitting in the waiting room and boarding a private jet out of Stansted Airport. This vision you will see on loop today because he does, as Trudy mentioned, he looks remarkably well. He walked onto that plane and after, as we mentioned, 23 hours a day in darkness in a 2 by 3 metre cell, 1 hour of sunlight a day in prison in London.
He did hard time, boy. You hear that? 23 hours a day in a little cell, in a little cement box. 23 hours a day for the last 5 years.
For 5 years, he looks remarkably well. Of course, we only have these short pictures to go on. There will be, I'm sure, a road back for him in terms of his mental health.
He's walking okay. His health is fine. He's definitely not undernourished. He's fat.
And his health more broadly. But that is Julian Assange.
That is Julian Assange. All right, so where is he being released to and why? Northern Meridian Islands. Look where the hell he is. Right? This is the fucking island. It's all the way out here, right in the middle of the ocean. Where's the fucking island? Right? So there's the island. Northern. You see, here's Australia, right, and all the way over there is England. Right. So he flew over the world, landed in Bangkok to gas up, and then they're on to this little island right here. Northern Marion Island, right? Here's the international airport in Saipan, right? Saipan is the place he's going. Where's the courthouse? Is probably right next door, right? So if Julian Assange is going to get hoodwinked and bamboozled and captured, it's going to happen here. Are we going to see that? Is the United States capable of pulling their fucking deal off the table at the last minute and arresting Julian Assange? Of course they are. Of course they are. Julian Assange is not safe. Right? Who knows what's going to happen to him? We don't know. We don't know. He's going to, we want to see the proceedings happen. And we want to see Julian Assange officially take that deal, which is time served. He spent 5 years in the Belmarsh prison. Time served for one count of violating the Espionage Act in the United States, and he's free to go with time served. The other 7 years that he spent in the Ecuador in the Ecuador embassy is off the table. Nobody's talking about that yet. Right? Nobody's talking about that. Oh man, GS Crippler says, did his plane crash yet? Oh my God. Oh no. He's in Bangkok. He made it to Bangkok. So his trip is halfway done. There's video of him. And look at this jerk off. Look at this jackass American idiot. Right? Now you say, does the government represent the people in most places? Like, does the actions of Hamas represent the people of Palestine? And is the actions of Hamas worthy of killing off the entire people of Palestine? The answer is obviously no, because one is not connected to the other. In the same way, what Mike Pence says is not an American idea. It's an American government position. Right? And listen to what Pence said. This is you might throw up a little bit when you hear this. Mike Pence on Twitter says, Julian Assange endangered the lives of our troops in a time of war and should have been prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The Biden administration's plea deal with Assange is a miscarriage of justice and dishonors the service and sacrifice of the men and women of our armed forces and their families. There should be no plea deal to avoid prison for anyone that endangers the security of our military or the national security of the United States. and that's Mike Pence. Right? There are people amongst us. There are people in this great nation who do believe this. A lot of them are intelligence, agencies and military families and people that are fucking, they still have their head in the sand about what war actually is and what freedom of speech, freedom of the press actually is. Julian Assange is a hero. Julian Assange didn't endanger anybody. He saved probably millions of lives in Iraq. And how many other people were these helicopters going to shoot down? Right? That video that he released with Chelsea Manning is damning. There's a video of him, you hear the interaction between the gunmen up in the Apache helicopter, and they're isolating 11 people on the ground, and they're just waiting for permission to open fire and kill all 11 of them, claiming that they had guns, and it was all false. 2 of them were reporters. They were just people moving around on the ground in Iraq. And that video was released by Chelsea Manning. And for that, that's what Assange basically showed the world. And for that, Julian Assange spent 12 years in jail, 12 years incarcerated off the grid, right? Caitlin Johnstone says, "Shut the fuck up, loser." Sticks Hexenhammer, fuck you, Mike. Gutner Engelman says, You should sit this one out, traitor. So Mike Pence, is Mike Pence a hero or a traitor? I would say the last. Julian Assange, New York Post makes the point, Julian Assange dropping $500K for flight to remote island to avoid setting foot on U.S. mainland. Let me tell you something. Julian Assange should, if it costs $10 million to do it, Julian Assange, if he can make it happen, because he's got wealthy friends. A lot of people are going to come to Julian Assange's back, whether they do it publicly or not. Right? A guy like Elon Musk will hear the story. He could drop $1 million in the account in a second, right? And that $500,000 is off the table. Or if Julian Assange needs to travel further, he can. I'm sure private jets will be provided. He definitely has to be careful for a while. I don't think it's. Remember, WikiLeaks was mostly remote. Right? All of the exposure that they did was from, it was all remote. Right? All of his interviews were remote in the United States. He's never stepped foot in the United States. And so I think the work, Julian Assange's work, will continue remotely for a long time. And those interviews are going to be fascinating if he goes on, hostile media like CNN or MSNBC, like Chuck Todd, who these guys hate fucking Julian Assange. They hate him. But anyway, so we'll see more of that. So Assange, 52 years old, he was 40 when all this started, was freed Monday morning from UK prison and flew from London airport to U.S. territory of Saipan in the northern Meridian Islands. An expensive $500,000 flight. Hey, listen, billionaire class, get busy, man, and send brother Julian some cash. The great Julian Assange. I don't know why. There's the beautiful island. I hope he gets out a little bit, right? I hope he has a day off. Get there faster and go for a tour, right? You're almost a free man. Right? Take a tour, go down to the island, smell the air, jump in the ocean. Don't get eaten by a shark. But what a beautiful place to be released. What a beautiful place. It had to be U.S. territory, but it had to be the U.S. territory closest to Australia that wasn't a U.S. state like Hawaii. Right? That was the part of the deal. Right? That was part of the deal, that this island, for some reason, for its proximity to Australia, was the place to do it. Now, Julian Assange has said over and over that there's no way that he would step foot on U.S. soil to negotiate anything. Right, on U.S. soil. So again, it looks pretty much like it's It's carved in stone. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange stops in Bangkok on his way to a U.S. court and later freedom. I think there's a video of that. No, it's the same shit, same video. They get this on a loop. This loop. There is the not malnourished private jet believed to be carrying WikiLeaks founder. Officials told Associated Press the plane was only in Bangkok for refueling. Right, that's all. That's what happened. There he is, the great young Julian Assange, probably in his 30s right there, or mid 30s. All of his action was done in his 30s. The latter stuff. Remember, all of the leaks, the DNC leaks, were all done while he was captive in the Ecuadorian embassy, until they pulled his internet rights and cut off all the wires. And left him in a room until they finally smoked him out of the Ecuadorian embassy in England. So Julian Assange is quite capable of working remotely. There's no joke, no doubt about that. This is a good story by SBS. This kind of summarizes the whole thing. Let's listen for a while because, again, this is all new. All these details are just coming out overnight. So
detailing America.
We don't really have a lot of detail.
America's wars in Afghanistan.
We don't have his words yet. That's what I want to hear. Raise your hand if you want to hear Julian Assange's first interview, because that's going to be good. Now, who should Julian Assange interview with first? Who? I would say unequivocally Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan should be his first interview. Not CNN, not MSNBC. Julian Assange and your team. Joe Rogan.
Afghanistan and Iraq. He had been facing 18 espionage charges. Instead, he'll plead guilty to a single criminal charge, allowing him to walk free and return to Australia as a convicted felon. Under heavy secrecy, Assange was freed on bail from Belmarsh Prison in London on Monday. He left the country hours later from Stansted Airport aboard a private jet. This afternoon,
they did it secretly. They released him out of Belmarsh secretly. Nobody knew that he was going to get released. And then the news broke. So there's no signs and people banging drums and free Julian, we love you. None of that stuff happened. So we weren't allowed to see England's last response, last reaction to Julian Assange. Will Julian Assange ever go back to England? Probably not. If this was me, I would fucking take the map of the world and I would go where England is and the United States is, and I would cut them out and I would take them and I would throw them in the garbage and never go there again. Don't even fly over it. Right?
Afternoon, his aircraft made a refueling stop in Bangkok en route to Saipan, the capital of the US territory of the Northern Mariana Islands, where tomorrow's sentencing hearing will take place.
Finally release the first steps towards freedom. This video provided by WikiLeaks. Julian Assange finally out of his maximum security cell. His wife had recorded this message last week.
This period of our lives, I'm confident now, has come to an end. And I think that by this time next week, Julian will be free. Things are moving very quickly, and it's very difficult for us to plan or even play out the next few hours and days.
Developments coming at lightning speed. News just breaking of a plea deal when it was revealed Julian Assange had already been released from Belmarsh Prison in London, where he was held in a cell 23 hours a day for the...
So that was a slick media move. They released him and then announced it. That's different.
Last 5 years.
The cost of Julian, of course, has been to be deprived of freedom for all these years.
Yeah.
In the battle for journalistic freedom, freedom to publish, foundation of democracy.
The Prime Minister had lobbied the US President directly during his state visit last year. Australia's leaders had joined on the floor of Parliament to call for his release in a rare...
Does Joe Biden look better after this happens, or does he look worse? It does. It plays into Julian. It plays into the Democrats' freedom of press. Right? You let that guy rot in fucking jail, scared shit that he was going to get the death penalty in the United States, and now prior to the November 2024 election, you let him out. Right?
A show of bipartisanship.
While this is a welcome development, we recognise that these proceedings are crucial and they're delicate.
Repeating the diplomatic entreaty that's been used before the cameras and behind closed doors.
Regardless of the views that people have about Mr Assange's activities, the case has dragged on for too long. There's nothing to be gained by his continued incarceration, and we want him brought home to Australia.
That's done. Done deal. Done deal. The Australians are backing him.
I think the UK and US justice systems should be respected, and we welcome the fact that Mr Assange's guilty plea has allowed for him to be released early.
Former Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce was
again, that plea deal is garbage. It doesn't mean anything in terms of admitting to something. Just get out the door. That's all you have to do. You got to get free yourself, right? Once you're on Australian turf, there's no way Australia. You just heard the Prime Minister speak. There's no way once Julian Assange steps foot in Australia, there's no way the United States is going to get him without their permission. Right? He's kind of like off the grid.
Among a crossbench group who were the loudest lobbyists, working with US Congress to apply.
Jimmy Crack Corn says it's a trap. I hope I'm wrong. It's a trap. It's a trap. They're gonna throw him in jail when he lands in Saipan. He's gonna spend another 10 years in the Saipan fucking jail. There's only one cell in Saipan, and it's for him.
Pressure.
Everybody gets to a point where you say, I think that's enough. I think that'll do. And for my part I don't think he should ever have been there.
If we'd left it to the legal system, and it's highly likely that Julian would be grinding his way through years more of legal process and on his way to the United States to face a secret trial and potentially years in jail.
Republican firebrand Thomas Massey among those on Capitol Hill in Washington who've been agitating for action. His liberation is great news, but it's a travesty that he's already spent so much time in jail. Obama, Trump and Biden should never have pursued this prosecution.
No way. Trump escalated it. Trump could have ended it. Obama could have ended it. When he commuted Chelsea Manning, he could have commuted Julian Assange as well. Excuse me. Actually, the math isn't with Julian Assange. Julian Assange was not incarcerated. Julian Assange was hiding in the Ecuadorian embassy during Obama's administration. So Obama can't really be blamed for that. Trump certainly could have released and or stop the prosecution of Julian Assange while he was president, but he did not do that. And Biden let it ride for another 4 years. So Biden had inherited the idea, and now under Joe Biden's administration, the Department of Justice or whoever the fuck is doing this is now vindicated.
It's been a case that has cast a very long shadow over press freedom globally.
In a case that's never been simple or straightforward, the expected final chapter to play out in a tiny island courtroom before Judge Ramona Magnona.
Ramona Magnona, Saipan. It's amazing. It is a fucking strange setting, right? If you want to call it a trap, if you ever want to set a trap, right? If you're going to set a trap, set it in Saipan, right? Fucking island is surrounded by Navy warships, U.S. Navy, and I don't know, man. I don't think it's a trap. I think it's just a way to let him out the back door, you know? Let him out. Does he have to sign any gag orders or I don't think so. I think when there's time served means time served. It means now you're free to go out and live your life after the 5 years that you served. Right? You don't have to serve anymore. Like, shut the fuck up. Right?
Big island of
There's no gag orders here.
Saipan on US soil is known for its tranquil beaches, about to be at the epicenter of a protracted global saga.
Julian has effectively had to plead guilty to an activity that's the kind of activity that journalists globally perform day in, day out. It really has exposed that use and abuse of national security type laws to silence journalists who would seek to expose crimes committed by governments.
Julian Assange touched down in Bangkok late this afternoon.
Yep.
The global movement still on edge.
There's a good report, SBS News. Thank you. They put it all together overnight.
Once again, seeking the mercy of the courts.
And Chief Political Correspondent Anna Henderson joins me now from Canberra. Good evening, Anna.
Good evening.
This certainly came out of the blue. Can you shed any light on the process of how it happened?
Sure.
Well, Catalina, of course, there had been some discussions as early as last year, sort of signals being sent out from the US about the potential that there could be a plea deal on the table. And certainly when it came to waking up this morning and this news unfolding, it really was quite a surprise that suddenly seems to be on the precipice of freedom and a life back in Australia. We know that the UK High Commissioner Stephen Smith, a former senior cabinet minister for the Labor Party, is the UK High Commissioner. He was on the plane with Julian Assange, we're told, as he departed.
That's interesting too. The plane that Julian Assange left with is full of diplomats, right? So if the US is going to blow the plane up while it's flying over fucking Bangkok or somewhere in the middle of the ocean, they're going to kill a lot of diplomats. And you got to ask yourself, you got to say, well, if you're a high position diplomat for Australia, and you think that Julian Assange is going to get gunned down on the flight, right? You wouldn't get on that plane, would you? So a level of safety seems to be around Julian Assange. The plane, his escape plane, the plane that's taken him to Saipan and back to Australia, is loaded with diplomats.
We also know that in Washington, another key kind of player in the background is Kevin Rudd, former Labor Prime Minister and the ambassador there for the US. We understand that behind the scenes, he has certainly been looking at ways that he can really advance the case of Julian Assange with, the US Department of Justice and other authorities that had some sway here. This moved from a press freedom issue in Australia to a political issue. We saw the bipartisanship coming forward.
It's both press and political. You can't separate those two. You can't separate press and political. Political is press. Press is political.
And then it's really become an issue of diplomacy between Australia and the US. And certainly while there are some deep reservations about how Julian Assange made these decisions on his way through to publishing this material, at this point in time in this parliament, there are very...
How did he make these decisions? He made the decisions like every other journalist in the world does. They they put a shingle out and say, I am a journalist. If you have damning evidence that shows the United States war crimes in Iraq, send them to me and I will tell the world about it. That's all Julian Assange did. Right? He was very good at it, right? And people wanted Julian Assange to release that information because they knew of the breadth and spread and audience that Julian Assange had.
A few members of this building.
Remember, Julian Assange was hot when YouTube was real. Remember YouTube? Remember the formerly the channel formerly known as YouTube when it was cutting edge. Well, Julian Assange was around back then.
Who were not.
Hey, Julian, come on my show, man. I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you for hours and days, man, because I feel like I've been in a cell for a while too,
Really celebrating this decision tonight.
Thank you for your analysis, Anna Henderson, Chief Political Correspondent in Canberra there. And we're joined now by our Chief International Correspondent, Ben Lewis, in London. Good evening, Ben. Can you tell us more about how this plea deal has come about?
Catalina, good evening. As Anna said there was huge involvement from Australian diplomats and the Australian government. There had been direct talks, though, between the US Department of Justice and Mr. Assange's legal team over recent months.
You get little details when you listen to these reports. Nothing new coming out. I think we got it all. Everything that we know so far is pretty much on the table. And we'll just keep surfing for newer details. I don't think I watched this all the way through, so let's find out.
Had intensified in the last few weeks. As for why the United States offered this plea deal now, well, you can look to the British legal system. A few weeks ago, Mr. Assange had a big win here. London's High Court had ruled that he could have a full appeal against his extradition. That hearing was due to be held in a couple of weeks' time, and it was going to focus largely on whether the Australian would be protected by the US First Amendment regarding...
Right. So there was going to be that's an interesting statistic. Julian Assange was going to appeal the right to appeal his extradition, and that would have involved actual court proceedings where people actually have to speak and go on the record for their lies, which is, how do you convict somebody on 16 or 17 frivolous felonies that are nothing more than what journalists do every day, right?
Freedom of the press, freedom of speech. And there was every chance that the WikiLeaks founder could have won that hearing and not been extradited to the United States. So it did make sense for the DOJ to offer a deal now. The other big question, though, was would Mr. Assange actually accept a plea deal? Because, of course, it requires you to sign on the dotted line an admission of some degree of guilt.
You're a jackass. Of course, who in their right mind would say, no, I don't want the plea. I'm going to sit in jail for another 15 years. Take the plea and then worry about the scar on your record later, right? You can always petition the courts for your rights and due process and pardons and all that stuff. The point is, you got to get out of fucking jail. You have to get out of the cage that you're in. They have you locked in a 5x7 cage, cement cage with bars on it, and that's where you spend 23 hours a day. And someone offers you a deal to get out of there, and by signing something, you throw the pen at them.
I asked Mr. Assange's wife, Stella, if he would accept a plea deal in February. This was her response.
We know that the plea deal system in the United States is the preferred system by prosecutors, and that's how they secure their convictions. Of course, Julian has done nothing wrong. And it's not just about Julian. Imagine if there were to be such a deal, the implications for the rest of the press.
She went on to add that Mr. Assange did want to be at home with his two sons and that they would look at options, and clearly this deal, which sees the 5 years spent in London's Belmarsh prison as time served, was deemed acceptable. Now, while the Assange family is celebrating, the UK government will be quite pleased that this is off their plate, there will be those who are not happy about the plea deal, particularly in the intelligence community. And we've just heard from former US Vice President Mike Pence, who on X has said that Julian Assange endangered the lives of our troops in a time of war and should have been prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Can you say circle the toilet, Michael Pence? Could Mike Pence circle the toilet any greater than he is already? What a disaster. What a disaster by saying that.
The Biden administration's plea deal with Assange is a miscarriage of justice. Catalina?
Yeah.
Still plenty of fallout to come. Thank you for the latest. Ben Lewis there, our chief international correspondent in London.
Being able to have something to always protect myself with this Byrna allows me to have that peace of mind no matter.
Yes.
Well, Julian Assange's guilty plea is expected to be finalised tomorrow morning in a US court in the Northern Mariana Islands. For more, I've been speaking with Tomas Manglona, the KUAM News Chief Regional Correspondent there.
They have somebody on the ground there. That's pretty interesting. That's good reporting right there. Let's listen.
Thank you for...
So she's on the ground. This person is on the ground in Saipan. No crowds. That's why they did it, right? If they would have done it somewhere else, there would have been large crowds, a lot of press. They snuck Julian Assange out the back door into a private jet to a remote island in the middle of the fucking Pacific. and he's gonna sign a piece of paper and he's gonna go home, and that's the end of it.
For joining us. You're speaking to us from outside Saipan's International Airport. How much attention is there on Mr. Assange's flight?
Yes, Julian Assange is expected to land here at the Saipan International Airport in the U.S. territory of the Northern Mariana Islands in a matter of hours. Right now, based on our observations, so we're the only news crew here, and operations seem to be going normally. But of course, all of that is expected to change in a matter of hours ahead of his court hearing scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Thomas, you are at the centre of the news universe. It's not a part of the world many had expected Julian Assange to finally settle his long-running legal case. Why is he having his case heard in Saipan?
Why?
That's the question many locally are also asking. Why Saipan? Well, Saipan...
Well, I just told you why. Because it's off the grid. There's no tourists. There's nobody there is going to run to the airport to snap a shot of Julian Assange. There's no activists. There's no terrorists. It's a remote island in the middle of the Pacific. All right, for someone to get there, they'd have to take a commercial airline to get there, and it's just not going to happen. It was a good move all around to keep the heat off of him directly.
And of course, is part of the U.S. territory, just like Guam, Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands. It's under the Northern Mariana Islands. And according to a court filing that we were able to obtain, Assange wanted to enter his plea here because it's not in the continental U.S.
Right.
And also it's close to his country of citizenship, Australia, which is where he's expected to return to at the end of tomorrow's court proceedings.
Right.
And Thomas, we understand you've spent some of today outside the district courthouse. Have you seen an influx of diplomats ahead of tomorrow's hearing?
Mm-hmm.
No, there hasn't been any indication of that. I haven't seen any influx of any particular types of government officials or
No government officials on the ground. Very interesting.
diplomats. Again, I think no one saw this coming. No one saw it coming here. But now that it is here, we can expect to see a lot of that movement, especially after he arrives.
All right, Thomas Manglonia, thank you so much.
Thank you, Thomas,
for joining us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a year.
So there you go. So congratulations to Julian Assange. I think that's all of it. It's all of it right now. So Marcus County reporting on the inevitable. I can't believe it's the year 2024. It's June 25th in the year 2024, and we're announcing finally the freedom, or the almost freedom, 90% freedom of Julian Assange. I don't know. I think it's less than 0.001% that the United States is playing a game here, because that would be a really ugly game. They would, if the United States were to openly take the deal off the table, that would be bad. Now, the United States definitely is capable of assassination. Some other, a Jack Ruby pops out of the fucking ocean in Saipan and shoots him. You don't know what could happen. You don't know what the United States is capable of doing. In Saipan, there could be, all of the Navy SEALs are there ready to shoot him when they see him. Nobody knows. We don't know. All we could say is that Julian Assange has left the Belmarsh prison in England, and he's heading to sign a deal. He's a free man. He left freely. The plane itself is free. He landed freely in Bangkok, and he's on to Saipan, where he's going to freely walk into a court and accept the plea and walk the fuck home. That's a free person. Even if there's a case hanging over your head, you're free on your own reconnaissance, right? And that's all factual right now. Right? Now, what happens when he gets back on the plane and he goes to Australia? Where does he land in Australia? I'm sure he has, his wife is there, his kids are there. And although he fled, really, Julian Assange, if you think about it, didn't live in Australia when he was at the height of his game. He was in England for the most part. So, and he would have spent the rest of his life in Ecuador if Ecuador would have let him in. He would have been like fucking the other guy in Russia. What's his name? I forgot the guy's name. The other whistleblower. But anyway, man, so thank you all for joining me. And yeah, man, I think it's a great day. I do. I think a lot is going to be said about this over time. The catastrophic collapse of freedom of the press and freedom of speech in the United States, the rise of authoritarian capitalism, corporate media, it causes this. Right? Media is supposed to defend Julian Assange. Corporate media goes after Julian Assange. Right? See the difference? There's a big difference there. So I'll see you guys. And let's never, ever forget. Let's never, ever
was walking
forget.
home in Washington, D.C. He worked for the Democratic National Committee. Police have very few clues to go on. Only on 3, KMTV reporter Nick Starling spoke with his heartbroken parents about how they are handling the grieving process and the speculation about who killed him.
It's been more than 6 months since Seth Rich was murdered. While the family grieves the loss of their son, they're also dealing with pressures out of their control.
It's definitely not a cold case, nor will it ever be.
Mary and Joel Rich want answers to their son Seth's murder, but right now police don't have any.
Our son's dead. There are 2 murderers running wild. And these 2 murderers are people that shot a kid in the back.
In the early morning hours of July 10th, 2016, D.C. Metro Police found Rich lying on the ground, shot twice in the back. He later died at a hospital. Police say nothing was taken from Rich, and they're looking into whether it was a botched robbery.
There is no good, strong evidence. It was 4 a.m, and not people walking by. So it's going to take a lead.
It was the same weekend when they were shooting all of the officers and the other people, and he could have been, it was that weekend, he could have been tied up in a hate crime.